Hello and welcome to episode number 110 of Killer POV. We are back, our triumphant return.
Yes.
I'm one of your hosts, Rob G. from Icons of Fright. With me is Elric Kane, putting on his shades.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
I was going to bring this up, but after the introductions.
No, because I feel it deeper.
You always cut in front of Bekah.
Yeah, why'd you do that? I didn't even get to say hi, and you immediately have to jump into like open.
I have to jump.
I feel it deeply. Let's get to it in a second. Calm down.
With a pencil, man.
No, I had to say it up front.
Bekah McKendry, Fangoria with us. Hi. Back.
Yes.
And we're sorry. We're very sorry.
Well, we're within hours of this news.
Yes. Well, we'll get to that. But we're sorry about the break. We Bekah was in Virginia for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, actually, I was all over the East Coast. I went up to New York City for a day. I was in Baltimore for a while. I was down in Richmond for a bit. So, yeah, I was kind of all over the East Coast. But
so she was on vacation.
Yeah.
This news pales in comparison.
And we tried really hard. We tried really hard to bank some stuff in advance. But also, it's kind of like Comic-Con week.
It was Comic-Con week, and everybody was gone.
And, not many people were here at the studio. So it took a little while to, try to coordinate, and we just couldn't do it. So sorry, we took a break. We're back.
We don't apologize.
And no, I apologize. I just did it. I just did it right now.
I will not apologize.
You can't take back my apology.
I will just blaze a new trail forward.
All right. Well, August is going to be special. Promise you. We've got some great guests lined up. A lot of news coming up. We are drinking Pabst beer here, courtesy of our friend Dennis Atherton, who sent a little beer money for us. So thank you.
I don't think this one's that one. But
yeah, this is Dennis Atherton.
This is
Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to cover us for like 2-3 weeks.
Sponsored a show, and it's going to cover us for a while. So we got beer from Dennis.
Beer, maybe Twizzlers next week.
Thank you so much, Dennis. And he actually has a message I'm going to read on air, but I'll do that next week.
If Dennis has paid for Pabst, it will last us the next year.
I thought we should space it out, guys. I didn't want to take the money that he sent and be like, and here it is in one big lump, and I got you guys the greatest beer ever.
We drink it all. Yeah. No, but we have an Irishman coming next week, so
so we'll get some good stuff.
We'll have to bring extra alcohol then.
Guinness.
And thank you to Guinness, and thank you to Matt Ray, who as I got here, I had a poster tube waiting. He sent me a poster of FX2. Thank you. Love it. Gonna hang it up.
It's gorgeous.
It up. Yes. All right. So much to catch up on. So many events. So many movies we've seen. So much stuff. But as Elric said, unfortunately, a few hours ago, earlier today, Roddy Piper has passed. Unbelievable. 61 years old.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was totally out of the blue.
Totally out of the blue. And
I named my trivia team after him.
You did.
Not a Shades.
And what's weird is I had just seen him on TMZ this morning because he did something on TMZ where he did an interview about Hulk Hogan, and it was just up this morning. And it was.
I think he told them to go to hell for asking about it. And let me just say, because TMZ is the most soulless, worthless people on the planet. I have no
They have a great Hollywood tour, I have to say. The tour buses, they run the best.
That may be true.
The channel is crap.
As much as I hate them for being just soulless people, I hate them even more that they're always the ones breaking this news.
Right. Yeah, somebody told me they broke this and it was like a sports version of TMZ, and people were like, is that even a thing? Or is this a parody, Just awful. Just awful. But, the thing that I think is kind of fun is, not fun, but... it's nice to see how many people have been posting about it all day in a positive light, because the truth is, and you meet a lot of people at conventions or whatever. I met Roddy at a Chiller convention way, way, way back in the day, probably in the early 2000s. And by far, got to be one of the nicest, most gracious, generous people. With me, it was my buddy, me and my buddy Mike Kerr were waiting online. He's a big wrestling fan. And Bekah, if you remember the Chiller shows, they were packed. It took hours.
Oh my gosh,
you had to wait for hours just to get to somebody.
The one that I was at, the Chiller show, I went to 2 Chiller shows, and the cops ended up at the first one because it got so crazy, and they ended up telling people that they couldn't come in because it was so packed.
They would always hit their fire quota, whatever, But I remember that was our guest. It was Roddy Piper. I brought my They Live DVD. He brought some wrestling stuff. It's like, he's the guy we're going to wait hours for. Get in line. Waiting at least 2 hours or whatever it is. And we literally get to the front. Like, there's one person in front of us. They're getting their signature from Roddy. And then they literally break and say, oh, he's going to just take a break to go grab lunch. So we're really sorry. Just hang tight. And we're like, oh, my God, we were one person away. And he gets up and he leaves for lunch. And they're like, oh, he'll be back in a half hour. And huge line behind us. Half hour goes by. 45 minutes, an hour, And by the hour mark, now we're furious because we've been waiting all day. And we're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. He didn't get back until an hour and a half later, 90 minutes. And it was hilarious because me and my friend Mike were being all like tough and rude. Like, oh man, we're just going to give it to him when he comes back. We're just going to be rude because, keeping us waiting, whatever. And I'll tell you, it took 5 seconds. We walked up and we're like, yeah, man, I hope you enjoy your lunch. It was a long lunch. Thanks for making us wait. And just the sincerity in eyes is like, oh my God. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh God, bless your hearts for waiting. I'm so sorry. And he got up and hugged us and awesome. He's like, oh man, I didn't mean to make you wait. Oh man, what's your names? What could I do for you? And we were just like, it's all right, man. It's kind of cool. Within 5 seconds, we were putty in his hands, and that's the kind of guy he was. And I've noticed that from all the stories I've seen of people posting about meeting him at conventions or on Facebook. He just worked on a movie with some of our friends earlier this year. And I don't know, it's a shame when anyone passes, but especially somebody that passes young and that is universally all these great stories about him.
So I went home straight away and I tried to find this photo because he was actually my first really favorite wrestler. And I had a wrestling party when I was 11 and I dressed as Roddy Piper. So I have the t-shirt and I have a kilt and I've been looking for the photo because it meant
Did you have a Hot Rod shirt?
I did. I drew it myself, a Hot Rod shirt. And it's funny because I was thinking about this a lot recently. I hadn't seen They Live in a long time till this year when we screened it.
Oh, right. At your place.
I used to always say to people in conversation, that movie's so great, but imagine if it had been Kurt Russell instead of Roddy Piper. I'd always say that. And then watching this last time, I was struck by how good a performance it is, how subtle he is, how it's not there's a couple big moments, like the fight and other moments where he's looking through the sunglasses. But in the first half, where it's basically like an art film, right? Yeah. Of him just looking around the streets. It's really realistic. And I just surprised me how kind of nuanced a performance, which is the thing that Carpenter saw in him as a person. That's why he cast him in that role. And I think that's really telling of Carpenter's eye for talent.
It's a great performance. And I think he utters the one of the best lines in cinematic history. So
more or less improv. Right? He came up with that line.
Well, I think they came up with a bunch of lines and it wasn't like he said it and surprised everybody. I think John knew that they had a few.
Yeah, but it wasn't scripted. It wasn't in the script from what I heard.
Yeah.
And that's why he cast him, right? Because of his crazy interviews on WWF.
Yeah, because he would come up with those fun zingers or whatever.
With Mean Gene.
I remember the Cabal Cut screening that Fango did. It was right as soon as I moved to LA, Fangoria hosted the Cabal Cut screening at New Bev. And he
was coming out before, right?
Huh?
Wasn't he just coming out before? I think I saw him there.
Yeah, he wasn't coming out. He was there. Because we got there and I was because that's where Clive Barker came and everyone was making this huge deal about it. Yeah. And I get there and I'm like, Roddy Piper's here too. Holy shit. Did I book somebody extra? I don't remember. So I walked up to him and I was like, hi, Rebekah from Fangoria. Do you need help with anything? And he was like, no, I'm just a fan. I'm just here to watch. And I was like, that's awesome. He sat in the back row and just watched.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was great.
My first month in town, I got all excited because I went to the FedEx in Studio City and he was in front of me in line. And I just got kiki. So I was like, oh my God, Roddy Piper mails stuff too? It's stupid, but you see him and you don't think that sort of, in everyday life or whatever.
I saw Morgan Freeman at the Staples in Toluca a couple of weeks ago. And I didn't even think it was him until he walked over and he asked me to use, he was asking me how to use the color copier because it was in the self-serve area.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit, this is Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, that is big.
That's a big one.
Yeah, but it's sad. And he was in other good tune, the Frog, what is it? Frog
Comes to Helltown?
Yeah. I saw that a long time ago. I thought it was cool, but I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, and I think there's one video I wanted to mention, and I'm glad I looked it up right before I got here, that just kind of shows his personality in terms of what kind of guy he was, and I think it was you can find it on YouTube if you just put in Roddy Piper prank, and essentially he was on a podcast. It might be Schmoes Know. That's the link that's on here. But what it is one of the interns that worked there was a huge Roddy Piper fan, and they wanted to play a joke on the intern. So they're like, we gave the intern questions. He's going to ask you a question, but we want you to get so offended that you get up and threaten to slap him and leave. And he was just like, oh man, I don't know if that's just really mean. I don't know if I did. And they're like, no, it'll be really funny. It'll be funny. And being the type of guy that wants to please, he does it. He actually does it. And it's seeing this kid, his heart just breaks as Roddy starts cursing. He's like, "Why would you ask me that?" Blah blah blah. Uh-huh. And he gets up, and then they finally reveal it. But that's the best moment of it is when he comes back and he's like, "I'm so sorry. They just really wanted me to do it. And they said it'd be funny. I'm so sorry." He goes over, hugs the guy. He's like, funny. "I didn't mean that. Now, what was your question?" So you can watch that online. I think that's that sums him up. He wanted to do what they asked, even and then he felt so apologetic for this fan and all that. So.
The weird thing is, even though I was really into him when I was young, my memory is that when kind of WWF was hitting its peak, when I started watching it, he had basically retired then. So it was more like the image of him is what we had at that point when I was young. People like him and Junkyard Dog had just started to retire from my memory. And yet they were the ones I really dug when I first started watching. I don't know why. It's interesting. He just had it's a fun character. Part of it's a character they're playing,
Yeah.
It was cool. But anyway.
So
that's the sad news out of the way.
That's the sad news. Lots of events. Believe it or not, we have not done a show since the Blue Sunshine event.
Oh my gosh.
That was Comic-Con weekend.
Yeah, you're right. That was Comic-Con
We didn't
weekend.
talk about that.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So around Comic-Con weekend, Jeff Leiberman, who we had on the show earlier this year, happened to be in town, and we threw together a quick screening of Blue Sunshine at Jumpcut.
Complete with Blue Sunshine
where
drinks.
Elric made a Blue Sunshine drink.
And it was on DVD, unfortunately, but because they were filming extras for the Blu-ray.
Yeah, we the three of us as Killer POV did a little Q&A with him after, which was only mildly awkward, but that's because he's an awkward guy.
I almost passed out.
Three of us are standing up. That's always weird.
And they had turned off the AC so that there would be no sound for the Blu-ray, and it got unbelievably hot immediately, and you can see me my legs start
Bekah
shaking.
Leaves. She needs water.
And then I go get water because I was up there. I was like, I'm going down. I gotta go get some water. So.
Did he say anything? Was he like, "Oh, Becca's bored, she's gone," or whatever it was? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
But they shot it, and hopefully they're doing a new Blu-ray.
It may or may not make it. Who knows? But
I think it was good enough to make it.
It was fun.
So that was fun. It was fun seeing the movie again.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's a fun movie, and I think the Blu-ray is going to look from those little stills we were showing of the correction. It looked pretty amazing. And I think they're going to improve Zalman King's performance.
Yeah, he really goes for it. He's doing something in that movie.
That was my tip. The one thing I remember, I turned to Rob and I said, "You know what? That's the first time I've noticed what good actors know what to do with their hands." Zalman King, every time he walks in the room, doesn't know what to do with his hands. He crosses them, puts them in his pocket. They're always nervously moving, and you realize stillness of your hands is
right.
big.
But it makes sense in our Q&A, and I'm sure they'll talk about this on the Blu-ray and all that. But Zalman King is investigating this, this rash of people going crazy, losing their hair, and killing people, and it all dates back to drugs, to a form of LSD called Blue Sunshine. But what and I think you were the one that was delicately asking. So Zalman King's performance. So what was that about?
Why does he keep running away?
What was going on there? Yeah. And Jeff had admitted, he's like, "Well, I wasn't a good director." Yeah. He's like, "I told him in advance that he might have taken the drug too." He's like, "And I wish I didn't tell him that because he played it with that nervous energy, he might snap every time." And now if we rewatch it, that's what I'm going to think of, and I'm like, "Oh, well, that makes sense."
Because that was it exactly. Is his demeanor would be very calm with people, but he was wringing his hands constantly. So it was like he just doesn't know what to do with his hands.
But see, if he'd been to Stanford at the same time as the other guys, it would have made sense.
Yeah,
but then there's no illusion.
Yeah. So now
That's
we see plot holes, but it's okay because it still works. And I'd completely forgotten how kick-ass that score was.
Yeah, the music's great.
Yeah.
I think all the parts where there's something crazy about to happen are amazing. It's one of those movies that all the filler scenes are like, but anytime something actually happens, like the disco scene, the big bald guy's amazing. I mean,
there's some crazy stuff.
And the crazy
in there.
housewife kind of character.
But but Zalman King's performance is what stands out, and it's maybe it's because I know his history producing the Red Shoe Diaries and stuff, but even his scenes with his girlfriend creep me out.
Yeah. They're just bizarre.
They don't seem natural the way he.
Well, I heard before that Jeff, that it was because he was also bringing money to the project. That's he got cast. It wasn't that he was just cast. He didn't say that in this Q&A, so I thought that was interesting.
Oh, okay.
I'd heard that before, that he was kind of forced to cast him.
Even the Christmas party at the beginning, when he's supposed to be the normal one, he still seems like the weirdest one at the damn party.
He's weird. He's got a weird energy. Which makes sense. But that was fun.
Or I guess it's not a Christmas party. I guess it's just a party. But they were all wearing Christmas sweaters.
Oh, no, it was. Yeah, he had a Christmas sweater. No, I turned to Rob and said, this is technically a Christmas movie now.
Oh, okay.
Because it's L.A. Christmas, so it's hard to tell.
Okay.
Because it's Los Angeles. No, he had a Christmas
sweater. That's what
sweater
I remembered.
for sure.
It was like hot, but they all had Christmas sweaters
movie.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it is. It's totally. We were like, now new Christmas movie.
Now we can add that to the Christmas
sunshine.
Another screening I wanted to mention that for some reason everybody in this room was gung ho about, but I'm the only one that went, which was The Hidden at the Cinefamily. I had never seen it. And that movie fucking rocks.
You've never seen that before?
It was really, I don't know what I thought the movie was. I felt like it was one of those ones that I'd seen when I was young, but I know I mixed it up with something else, maybe like Guyver. I mixed it up with something else. But when I sat down, call it to Josh Miller, who was on our show a few months ago, and he runs the Friday Night Frights screenings. He invited me down, and we sat together and watched it, and I was just like, it starts with this like amazing car chase scene. Mm-hmm. So... you think, you hear low budget horror movie, whatever, and you think a certain thing, but like it was really impressive. And then the whole idea, like Kyle MacLachlan's really great in it.
Yeah, it's a great action horror.
Yeah, it's like action, sci-fi, but it's borderline horror. Cronenberg too. Yeah,
there's some really good stuff in it. And now I'm fascinated. I got to track down The Hidden 2, which is a direct sequel, although nobody came back for it. Which I think was a direct-to-video
I remember it
thing.
being good. I remember it being pretty fun from memory. I would like to see that again, too. Yeah. But that's why when I saw Jack Shoulder at Texas Frame, it was because of that movie that I said, he's made a lot of cool films. Yeah. But I said, we have to get him when he comes to L.A.
Yeah, it'd be great to talk about that.
And Alone in the Dark.
Yeah. So I saw that. What have you guys seen? I mean, there's so much, but let's just go back and forth.
Boy. Well, I'll tell you, a season I caught up very quickly. HBO had, or my cable had one of those weekends where they let you have Showtime. Mm-hmm. And so I hit, in one weekend, I watched all of the second season of Penny Dreadful.
How is it?
I really believe this show, like as much as the love we give to Hannibal, I think Penny Dreadful is an equal. I think Penny Dreadful, in terms of like a horror universe, is like one of my favorite worlds out there. And also Eva Green's just killing it.
I gotta see this show.
Just kill it. It takes a while in the first season to get into it. Eva Green.
Eva Green. What is
the actress.
She's the actress.
Very Johnny.
I'm confusing.
One of the Bond girls, right?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Sorry.
Quantum of Solace, I think.
Yeah.
She was famous for the Dreamers Bertolucci film where she's nude all the time. Mm-hmm. That kind of set her on the. But she's it's so Johnny-like. It's crazy, like Possession or something. Her performance, but it's also just a really dramatic. It's a great show, but also has like it's written basically by one guy, which I love. I don't know. It's just like I'm completely hooked. Creepy puppets and witches in the second season. So it's very different than the first season, and it's really got some of the eeriest. Somebody kept telling me, creepiest puppy you'll ever see in that last episode, and they're dead right. It's really got some great stuff in it.
I gotta push myself through it. I made it to the third episode of the first season when it got Frankenstein-y.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's okay.
Well,
and then
they
it was
have to establish all the characters.
Yeah. And they all built up on my DVR. And so I was staring at like the entire first season on my DVR. And after the third episode, I was just like, I don't know.
Everyone says the same thing. There's an Exorcist an episode where there's an exorcism. And in the first season, that's the one that everyone's in after. Like, because Eva Green just gives the craziest performance. And after that, you're like, oh yeah, I'm in now.
Okay. Up to the third episode. And this is where I was confused by the Eva Green because I didn't even know that was her name. Yeah. Because up to that episode, she's very flat. She's very reserved and she's very calm.
Right.
She's very kind of traditional Victorian woman.
Right. She's holding demons back. She is more or less
Aren't we all?
She's more or less the chosen bride of the devil himself. And that's basically the idea of something's coming for her. And she has it in her already. And it's all about them trying to fight it off. And they all have their own demons. But hers is so dark that it's like, whoa.
All right. That makes sense.
I love it. I love it. I really do.
All last year. Like, I remember Ryan Turek telling me about how he had such a thing for her. And I was like, really? She was so boring. And I just got to get through it.
Oh, yeah. We have like crazy Eva Green sex parties that you don't know about. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff.
She's great in that 300 prequel. That's her, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
She is.
Okay, I'm going to binge watch it.
All right, then if we're talking TV, you did Penny Dreadful. Have to mention the last 2 episodes of Hannibal.
Yes.
Because they completely made up for the entire season. I thought season 3 was kind of on the, dare I say, lackluster side. I liked it. There's a lot of great
just
stuff.
Jumping around a lot.
But I feel treading a little too much into remaking Hannibal was kind of like, But episode 7, Justivo, was a huge episode. Our friend Andrew Cash had tweeted, I think that episode is the best horror movie that's come out this year. And that's the thing. It's like, for everything that didn't happen this season, everything that happens in that hour is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
That one was full on.
Full on, some of the greatest stuff that the show's ever done. And then the next episode is directed by Neil Marshall, The Great Red Dragon, which sets off the events of the Red Dragon book. And
I guess it wasn't such a good idea for that because he gets dealt to.
Oh man, that's amazing. Yeah, what happened to that? How that unfolded?
There's a moment in the Red Dragon episode by Neil Marshall, where the guy's like face is like a projector. That's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
I was like, it was just
it's
interesting.
great. And you know, that's the thing. I wasn't nervous about Neil directing because obviously he's a great director, but because they were holding a little too closely to Hannibal, the source material for that, they gave it a great conclusion. I was like, we've seen Red Dragon now twice cinematically.
That's always a problem.
Here we got to remake it again. But I found it fascinating knowing the context now. You know what I mean? Like when they go and get Will Graham to go look at this scene, it's like I have 2 seasons of history of why
he's disturbed.
He hasn't said this is my design in God knows how many episodes. So that happening just felt like a bigger moment.
Yeah.
And
it felt like this is the episode that returned it back to the show you fell in love with.
Exactly.
And
Here's the thing: they made a major change in terms of his relationship with Hannibal, as it is in the book. So they can't do the Red Dragon story as it is in the book and movie because the relationship between the two is a completely different context here. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. And it's funny, I tweeted about how great it was, and somebody tweeted back me saying, now, if only we can get Neil Marshall to remake Silence of the Lambs with those characters. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Fuck yeah, I'm in for that.
Yeah.
That I would be
just
okay
wish
with.
Neil, when I saw this episode, I just kind of wish he was hired to do this whole story.
Just
so the arc had a feel to it.
Yeah.
But it was great.
Knocked it out of the park.
I'm excited to see where this one goes now.
Yeah, I think if anything, the show's going to have a really strong, closing out. Yeah, for sure. So there's that.
And I can't recommend people enough to the August issue of Fango. I just proofed it today. It's going to press right now. Issue 343, which was guest edited by Brian Fuller. But I mean, we get so in depth into the show, the older movies, the novels, how it's all tied together, the actors, the effects, like how they do all the effects on the show. It's just like ridiculously in depth, and it's so good. And even though that I admitted this before, I have seen like one episode of Hannibal, which was amazing. I need to go back and watch them all. But it intrigued me even more. I was just like, now I have to see them.
It's going to be looked back upon in context in a completely unique way.
Yeah, because it'll feel like one big movie.
I don't know what it's going to say. It's going to set something off. I don't know what. In the same way that, and I always say this, and I'm not biased, but I do feel Dexter changed how people felt about like killers on television.
I
think
Dexter
before that show
was our spark in the horror bomb that went off on television. It was Dexter sparked it, and then Walking Dead kind of.
Yeah, and the thing with Dexter was the first season. It was during the writer's strike. They showed the first season on, I think it was ABC. So now the mass public got to see that kind of show. And since then, it's just exploded. And I feel in a couple of years from now, whatever we have, I think we're going to credit Hannibal for, I don't know what exactly, just something, that kind of artistry.
Well, it's also interesting that we always want more. Right? Like, so we're right in the throes of hearing it's being canceled. So we want more, but then there's that other side of it of history.
Yeah, I don't. I'm actually okay with it.
It gets remembered. If Dexter had ended at 4, it'd be remembered like in a totally different way. It's like the last couple seasons can totally change it. Things can become like a joke. And that's not what you want. And it's like American Horror Story, if that had been 1 or 2 seasons, I feel like now it's just like, oh, what's the next American Horror Story? It's like,
where are they
going?
Like, I don't know. I'm kind of interested.
Yeah, but it's so one-off. I think once, that's the problem with one-off series. It's like, the characters are going to die. I think the only thing American Horror Story could do to reinvent themselves is create now a series. So the next season they say we don't know if it's going to end. We just leave it open.
Keep going,
and we see if it keeps, and that way at least I'd be like, oh cool, that could be, because you fool me once with the whole characters dying, and then I'm like, all right.
Yeah, but they're going to be back as another.
I don't know.
It's like hard to care.
I was not as into Freak Show, but Coven, Asylum. No, I didn't.
I like Coven a lot.
Coven, I loved. Asylum, I loved, and Murder House, I loved.
Great.
So
Murder House got really good.
I mean, and 3 years that was like my favorite show on television. Freak Show, there were a couple episodes that I thought were amazing, but I didn't make it through the rest of the season. So I'm hoping Hotel is like
Lady Gaga.
Is she in it?
She's the star.
Wow.
Oh boy,
that's what I say.
That's a bold choice.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Really quick on the TV kick, they just wrapped up Wayward Pines.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about this because I hear it's kind of Twin Peaksy.
It is. I loved it. I really, some people are like, well, that was stupid. And I was like, yeah, but look, it was a 10 episode miniseries, and in terms, and it had a really cool sci-fi horror twist to it that I thought was fascinating. Some people balk at M. Night Shyamalan's executive producer credit, or whatever. He didn't have a dick to do with the show, quite frankly. It doesn't even feel like his stuff. It does feel. He
produced that elevator movie I liked.
Yeah, Devil. I like that movie too.
It was a good movie.
Yeah. He didn't really do anything to it, but no, I really liked it. I thought it was really strong. It had a really great cast, and it kept me guessing all the way towards the end. And I've now since discovered that they're actually, and this might be the problem, because a lot of people thought that certain things, they held off too long on certain plot twists, yet they sped through other ones. These are based on books. There's 3 books by a guy named Blake Crouch. And the first one's called Pines. The second one's called Wayward. The last one's called The Last Town. I just assumed this was based on the first book. But I've been told that they have crammed all 3 books into this one season. And they haven't picked it up, so there's not going to be another season. It's just these 10 episodes. And that's kind of it. It has an interesting kind of sci-fi effed up closure. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is more than satisfying, but you're kind of like, oh.
I think I watched the first 2, and then I just didn't. It wasn't that I didn't like it. I just didn't.
I think now that all is said and done, it is worth marathoning, because I also felt like, because it's based on a novel, it felt like a novel, the way everything kind of unfolded itself. So I really liked it. I thought it was excellent, and that's all you can ask for is
where can we see
good
that?
Entertainment. I think it was on Fox. I don't even remember.
Yeah,
I watched it on Hulu Plus.
It's Hulu. Okay.
I watched it on Hulu Plus, but I know it aired on some network.
Okay.
I don't watch regular TV.
Yeah.
So that was that. Anyone else catch up on more TV stuff?
I think that was it for TV. I saw a lot of movies.
All right, let's get to movies.
Yeah.
What'd you see, Elric?
I went to a double feature. I made it a double feature at the Cinefam. Okay. So I saw a film called Alleluia.
I've been wanting to see that.
It's Fabrice de Waltz, who made Calvaire, the Belgium.
Oh my gosh, I loved that movie so much. It was like Deliverance, but in Belgium.
Yeah, this is very in the vein. I mean, he even said he was there at Cinefam.
Oh, cool.
He even said straight up, first reference is Possession. This movie, the lead performance, the woman, is just so intense, and it's pretty disturbing at times. There's a couple things with kids and parents, but it's basically a retelling of one of my all-time favorite movies, which is the Lonely Hearts Killers. Is it the Lonely Hearts Killers, the actual name, or is that the name?
Honeymoon Killers?
Honeymoon Killers, who are based on the killers who were called the Lonely Hearts Killers. And which was a one-off movie by a guy called Leonard Castle, made one movie. He was
Criterion,
composer. Criterion.
Yeah.
It's just one of those movies where it's so unique and offbeat. It almost feels like a John Waters vision of a serial killer film. This is got zero resemblance to it. I mean, if they've taken it, it's the thinnest. It's really just the setup of the actor from Calvaire, same guy, basically kind of charms lonely woman on the internet, and then usually just takes their money, doesn't hurt them. He's not a violent guy at all. He's very weird, and he falls for this girl, rips her off, but she becomes freaking obsessed by him. So the next time he goes to kind of make his moves on a woman, she comes in and destroys the person and says, nope, it's just me and you. And, you can sleep with whoever you want, but you're mine. And we can rip people off, but you better not ever fall in love with them. And it's really intense. Their relationship is I really think this is definitely one of the better films I've seen this year, horror or otherwise. There's a couple scenes that are particularly bloody. I think people will dig it. I know a lot of you won't see it. It's, obviously, French subtitles, but it's really interesting. And then after that, I went to that only because after I was not willing to miss seeing The Reflecting Skin in 35 millimeter. That went from
such a hard movie.
Well, that went from being one of those movies I was like, I always think that was an interesting indie film, to being just flat out one of the best films I've ever seen. Really believe it's the best film about a child's perspective of the world, if that child has a really fucked up perspective of the world. If that child has a dark imagination and is in some weird kind of slightly surrealist bent version of America, it is just everything is painstakingly through that character. You're never outside of that character's view of the world, I feel. And it's, totally surreal and over the top. And the artistry is at times borderline on ultra pretentious and then dialed back to I don't know. It's just one of the weirdest films. The ending, you're looking around at everyone did that just end like that? Yeah. Because it's, kids screaming. But it is just gorgeous. And it's not a midnight movie. So I was worried about seeing it at midnight. But man, you even asked Phil Blankenship, your program, it was more people were talking after that than he said he had seen in a long time, because it's so kind of polarizing. There's all this imagery that you can't, it just opens with a frog exploding on a woman's face. And there's just a lot of crazy stuff in there. It is a really great movie.
There's a whole bunch of, even though that it's in like Kansas, I would assume someplace Midwest.
It's a British guy probably shooting in England, making it look like some weird American.
It's supposed to look like American Midwest because you're staring at all this waving wheat the majority of the time, which is quite possibly the most terrifying stuff in the movie. For some reason, it's like super bright, like broad daylight, but this wheat is like terrifying. But in one of the people's house, there's all these harpoons and whaling stuff. No explanation of why it's there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I can't remember what the woman's background was. She traveled a lot, but it's a weird relation, and a kind of not inappropriate, but a weird relationship to this woman whose husband had died, and then Viggo Mortensen comes in, as the older brother. But no, seeing it on it just goes back to that thing that some movies, it really is like seeing it for the first time when it's projected in a way that because not all movies are cinematic. Like I watched Creep by Blumhouse, from Blumhouse,
I watched that too.
And that could be I could watch that on my phone, and I would have thought, oh, that's pretty cool. But if I see it in the theater, it doesn't make any difference. Whereas some movies are they're shot and designed for one particular place with no afterthought. Especially because it was only VHS back then, they would not have thought about that movie in VHS. It's made by like this artist who's going, okay, it has to look like this, and the widescreen looks like this. And so when I see it in the theater, I'm like, oh, I see why this is an amazing film now. And the DP's gone on to shoot a ton of stuff. He's a big DP.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's a big part. But the guy's more of like became more of a fine artist than a filmmaker, the director.
Yeah, Philip Ridley.
And
I'm looking at his credits.
Three films. Darkness, Purple Noon.
Yeah, the only Heartless I vaguely remember. I recognize the artwork, but I've never seen it. I didn't know that this was the same director.
Yeah, he's kind of, I wouldn't say difficult so much as he's just like, he does a lot of plays, does a lot of fine art. He also wrote The Craze, the original gangster film that was kind of a big deal back when we were young. But, I would love to see another thing by him. And if you can find a copy, it's still not very easy. This, of all the movies I've seen in the last few years, this is the one where you're like, okay, this has to be a Criterion at some point. It just has to be. Like, it's just too...
Is it available?
Know why. No, I've got a DVD of it that it must have been at some point, but...
I have a DVD as well.
It was out at some point, and then it just kind of went out of print.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure... I think I read that Arrow maybe was doing the British... British version, but really just fascinating movie.
Yeah.
And jumping off one you watched and one that Rob worked on, which I'd never seen.
Oh, what did I work on?
Madman.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A movie I had zero expectations.
Hold
I
on,
knew nothing about it.
Did you snag my copy while you were watering my plants?
I got one from Trivia. I did steal your Contamination, which I haven't watched yet.
Okay, enjoy.
I did steal that one.
That was a little dry, but it's got cool effects.
Madman really surprised me, and I would say of all the stuff Scream Factory's released that I didn't know of, like the films I hadn't seen, it's my favorite of all of them because it was so fun. Like it was just, and it's so well designed. Like it's reminded me, designed a lot like Dark City, going between, a period piece noir kind of feel and something. But it was not in the way like I'm scared or it's that kind of horror film, but more in like it's so playful and fun, and the blurring of reality versus, and it never falls into the tropes of the slasher films of that period. It's always super playful. What's the Dr. Alan Kessler is a great villain. Everything about it was just fun, and like I feel like when you get to the end, it's so organically done. There's such a beautiful trick shot of how the character died. You're like, this is a cool movie. Yeah. And I hope people run to it and check it out. Who aren't aware. I was not even aware of this film besides the poster.
No, I remember it was a big deal when it came out, and I want to sit down and rewatch it because the last time I watched it, it was for the commentary with Tibor and Randall Cook, who is the effects guy, and they worked on The Gate together.
Right.
So this was like their follow up to The Gate.
And you can see because they've got like a gate looking monster.
Yeah, at the start they put him in there.
They actually tease Randall in the comment. I think Tibor teases him in the commentary. Yeah. He's like, "Why?" He's like, "I only got one creature. What do you want from me?"
So Randall ended up doing Lord of the Rings films.
He did. Yeah, he's big. He did Ghostbusters and Fright Night around that period.
Oh, great.
But he has since gone on to work on all the Lord of the Rings movies, which is kind of amazing.
And he acts as
and he's the killer. He's amazing. He's the villain of the movie.
I really loved his performance.
And Jenny Wright. And,
she's really cute.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool, but you did a great, the documentary you edited in it, I thought
First
was really
editing
good.
credit, woohoo.
That was great.
Yeah, no, it was a nice little piece, and kind of, I didn't know much about Timur. Is it Timur?
To Tibor Takas.
I'd love to get him on after that because with the Gate 1 and 2 and this, it's
he's had a fascinating career. Yeah, he's local. Okay. I'll see if I can
done
get him.
a lot of kids stuff in sci-fi in the last like 20 years.
Yeah, no, really fascinating guy. Really fascinating guy.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one.
They did a 35 millimeter Gate screening at Cinefamily, I think last year that I went to. It was like one of the Midnight Friday Frights, and he spoke at it. And it was really cool listening to him talk about the Gate too. So,
he also directed Spiders 3D. 2 years ago. He's done everything.
Stuff,
He's done all sorts of odd stuff. Right. Yeah. He's pretty interesting. Yeah. Let me piggyback on your Scream Factory thing. and I'm going to be super quick on these because there's other ones that I'd rather talk about.
Sure.
But, it's fun because now we're at the point where Scream Factory is putting out titles that I sort of know, but not really. Because just everything has come out now. Yeah. It's like, well, I've already seen all the Carpenter stuff. So I watched Ghost Town, which they put out, which I didn't realize I think it's an Empire picture produced by Charles Band.
Oh, weird.
And I only remember the cover, the box art of the skeleton and the ghost town behind him and everything. And man, I was bored to tears.
It's okay. I'm glad because I was going to say that one's a little dry.
It's really dry. I mean, it was a challenge to make it through. And this kind of bums me out because I have other friends on my Facebook feed that love it. But I really think it's because they saw it on VHS as a kid. And I think that's the weird thing about cinema is some of these movies, you have a memory of them that when you revisit it now, you're like, oh, yeah, I still like this movie. But since I had never seen it and I'm watching it now through adult eyes, I was just bored to tears. There's nothing good about it other than a cool cover.
Yeah.
So there's that one. And then I watched Cellar Dweller.
I remember that one.
Yeah, which was... Yeah, 1988. I think John Carl Buechler directed it. Jeffrey Combs is in the opening sequence, and it's pretty cool. It's got, remember that Tales from the Crypt episode where it was like the comic book artist doing Tales from the Crypt, and they were sort of coming alive.
Oh, and he drew his wife, and his wife came back as a monster. Yeah,
that's the premise. It's
Harry, the guy from Night Court.
Yeah, Harry Anderson. Yeah. That's the one. But this is a movie essentially like that, where there's a guy that Jeffrey Combs is this famous artist that essentially conjures up a demon by drawing him, and then he kind of comes alive, and he's like this giant practical creature. So there's things about it that are kind of neat. But it's just okay. It's just a cool little movie, cool little creature feature from the late 80s.
Wait, is that a Scream Factory double?
Yeah, I can't remember what it's doubled with though. But yeah, they just put it out as a double bill. I haven't watched the second feature yet. Although it was fun seeing Yvonne DiCarlo as the lead woman. She's like the older woman that runs like this art like school. And I'm like, who is she? She looks so familiar. And it turns out it's the woman that played Lily Munster in The Munsters. So I'm like, look, there she is. Okay. So that one was okay. But the recommendation I want to make is, again, I'm always in shock when people complain that Netflix has not enough stuff on it, which I think, Elric, you're guilty of sometimes.
I just can't find anything
I don't
anymore,
get that. I just don't, because I like
a lot of movies. That's my problem. I go through and I go, seen it.
All the indie movies that we mentioned on the show, they're all on there now. Yeah. So like Housebound and Starry Eyes and all that stuff.
I never complain that there's not something great for somebody.
Exactly.
Like The Guest just hit, which
is
The
Guest.
I love The Guest.
That was a great movie.
When I go on, the only films left in the horror stuff are usually dregs that I don't want to push the button on.
And then maybe that's why you should subscribe to Shudder, because that's all they do. Yeah. But Netflix always has good stuff, and for me in particular, if it's not the new indie horror stuff, I'm huge in Korean cinema and I'm huge in documentaries.
Yeah, documentaries.
It's always got great.
I had a Korean movie on my queue for quite a while called Blood and Ties. Finally watched it, loved it. The basic premise is your lead character is this girl that is trying to get a job as a reporter, and it's just her and her dad. They have like this very sweet, bittersweet relationship with each other. And there's a documentary film that just came out in theaters that everybody's talking about the most notorious kidnapping case where the little boy ended up getting killed by the kidnapper, and they never caught him. And so she's in the theater with her boyfriend and friends watching this, and they have like this eerie phone call that the kidnapper left, and she just suddenly recognizes it as her father's voice.
Oh,
it's
wow.
like, is that really him? Like, could this sweet guy that raised me have been the one that kidnapped and murdered this little boy? So I just found it to be, and that's it. Like, it's a the whole time it's kind of like, I described it as emotionally devastating because think about it, you get
my
raised
favorite subgenre.
Because you don't fully know. It's like some evidence is presented, and you're like, I don't know, I think that's legit. But then you see the way he is with her, and you're like, but this is the guy that raised her whole life.
You're highlighting to me, honestly, what the worst element of American cinema, or the weakest part of American cinema versus foreign cinema, which is the ability to build a story on ambiguity and not spelling it out in the first 30 minutes. Like, we're so scared for whatever reason, probably studio, and everyone needing to understand everything all the time, even though audiences don't. You need to. And I feel like with Korean cinema or Japanese or French, they're so much more willing to let you be in the dark for 75 minutes, and even at the end with something that, for me, it makes you as an audience member work harder.
Oh yeah,
puts your heart in more.
It puts you in the place of this girl because it's like, could my dad have done this? And like, it's just, again, like, because, at certain points, evidence presents itself that is pretty overwhelming. And you're like, oh man. But then it's like, she's just trying really hard to get a job. And it's like, he's working this second job and he drops off this little note to the guy that's going to hire her. Like, my daughter means everything to me. She really wants, and you're just like, it's just so heartbreaking that, because then you feel bad like she does for even thinking that it's possible.
Interesting.
So I thought it was a really great movie. It's called
Does it have
Blood.
a good payoff without?
I thought so, yeah. Okay. I was pretty satisfied with it. And again, I mean, Korean cinema is just a little off kilter to begin with. So, but I really loved it. It's called Blood and Ties, and it's on Netflix Instant if you want to check that one out.
Nice.
What else did you guys see?
Do you want to go? I mean, I have about 4.
I don't keep going. I only have
you're
3,
on holiday.
so.
You're traveling around.
You're on holiday.
I've only got a couple. So
well, I'll do one because this one I won't go too in depth because I'm like the last human on earth to have seen Ex-Machina.
I finally did
it. And I haven't seen it.
This is one of the top movies of the year. Like just movies, not forget subgenres. It's just really smart. And the thing. What I was just kind of ranting about American cinema, I don't really mean like American cinema on the indie level. I'm talking about studio movies. And here's the thing. We just had a Terminator movie, right? That everyone's like, this is the dumbest piece of shit. It's like, give the fucking keys to this guy. Like,
oh my God,
what would Alex Garland do with the keys to, hey, reinvent Terminator with your ideas of artificial intelligence and an actual, like, what if the guy who ran Facebook went off and made a Terminator? What would happen in the universe? It's like, this movie's so freaking smart. It's fun. It's subtle. The characters are like great. I mean, everything about it just, and it's not... I don't even think it's really slow. It's just simple.
I was into it. I was into the whole thing.
I think you nailed it when you were telling me about it. That it's exactly really like the TV Black Mirror. It's like
a Black Mirror episode.
It's like a good feature length version of a great Black Mirror episode.
That's what it felt like.
Alex Garland, it's really cool to see. I think sometimes maybe there's a rush for writers who are building careers as writers to go, oh, I have to be a director too. And I think his career is interesting to me because it kind of shows that you wait for the right
Refresh
thing.
my memory. What else is
he wrote Sunshine. He wrote The Beach. He wrote 28 Days Later.
Oh, so all the
he basically kind of apprenticed to Danny Boyle, who's a great director. So, but I get the feeling like just by watching what he did that he didn't just go, oh, I'm a writer, so I also have to direct. I think he just, this isn't without seeing interviews. I think he just said, no, this is the right story now for me to tell it. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think often people think these are roles you should do because the industry respects directors more. And I think that's all a bunch of hooey. I think if you think that you're going to be the one to tell that story, and I got the feeling he did, and I think he knocked it out of the park as a director. Yeah. And the ideas are super smart. The acting's great, and it just has so many little subtleties at the end that if everyone in the world had seen it, I would be talking about right now. Like, do they care about each other and stuff? There's so much.
There's so much stuff in there.
So I'll leave that at that. But I would. It's in red boxes. That's how I saw it on Blu-ray. $1. Boom. You can watch that film. Very interesting film. And I saw this one. This will be brief, but got to give a shout out to our 4th guest on the show, Mike Mendez.
Hey,
Mike Mendez. As I tweeted, and couldn't be more truthful, and he knows it. That's why I wrote it. I said I only recorded Lavalantula because Mike Mendez made it. I only sat through the whole thing because Mike Mendez made it, but I laughed my ass off because Mike Mendez made it because he really just makes something that should not work at all and be stupid and the kind of movie I would hate. Yeah. And somehow I'm just sitting there with a smile on my face going, oh yes, it's Police Academy, but done with Lavalantulas. There's all sorts of limitations with budget, but as a director, he's completely, like, you think about the thing he probably brought to that, which is casting those people, forcing them to be in there, and his sense of humor. And it's like, and those things are the one thing that like elevate everything about it. So I'm really impressed by that.
Well, he's got the geek cred because I know he was telling me the one shot in particular. So they wanted to do a Sharknado crossover for that one moment with what's his name, Ian Ziering, whatever, and they cross paths or whatever. And he's like, we got to get the Predator shot where they just slap hands and it's like a close up. Totally
but all I could thinking afterwards was like, will Tom Selleck and Ted Danson be in the next one? Will it be the 2 men and 3 men and a little baby?
It should. And they already announced the sequel.
But it's fun. It's fun to see someone and this is like he knows that's not my first. He's the first person to tweet back going, I know you hate these kind of movies. It's like, no, but I've only ever gone through I think 3 sci-fi original movies in my life, and one was Gulliger, one was him, and one was Drew, the leprechaun thing that Drew made, and Big Ass Spider, but that wasn't made for sci-fi. But and Big Ass Spider still I think is the best of all of them. film in terms of comedy, like, the comedy.
It's a fun movie, knows what it is.
Yeah, this one was really elevated by his kind of touch, but I had fun. And so it's cool when it actually, when millions of people are seeing this stuff, it's like, hey, good for you.
That's pretty crazy.
So kudos to you, Mike. Yeah. And then the last movie I saw is the best movie I've seen best kind of discovery movie I've seen, and I watched it this morning. And you, I think, have a VHS copy. I borrowed it off Shane. It's because you can never get on Code Red. It's the Hal Holbrook film Rituals.
Yes, I do.
And have you seen it or just?
I haven't. I found it at the Goodwill. I thought it had a kick-ass cover and it was $1.
This is one of those movies, when you see those ones, when you see a cover and you go, oh, it looks like, they ripped off like a Deliverance, probably like a shitty movie. It's like a fucking astounding movie. It is.
Really?
It is like, I tweeted, it's Deliverance if you're missing Hal Holbrook from Deliverance. I mean, it's like, basically it just opens with 5 doctors.
Wait, what's the title again?
It's called Rituals, but it was AKA The Creeper from 1977, which it's not as good a title. Rituals makes total sense. And it's basically, what's so cool about it is we're used to like the slasher genre or even Deliverance being not that cerebral types of people, because like when bad things start happening, they start doing dumb things, right? This is 5 doctors and 2 of them are brain surgeons, and they're all going on a retreat together, and you just jumps right in. You don't really know what they do at the start, and they're just in a plane. It is the most, it's actually like, maybe besides Deliverance, which is like more or less my favorite American movie, it's one of the most dangerous movies. It just feels like they're in these real locations. They're on these crazy tall hills walking where it looks like if they fall, they're done. It feels like a dangerous movie, but they're basically being picked off and you don't really understand why. It follows a slasher format, but with it's a real movie. It's not like a slasher movie. But what's so cool is it's like as soon as one bad thing happens, like I guess their boots are stolen. That's the first thing that happens. They're instantly intellectualizing and talking like, well, it could be this, it could be that. I think we have to be careful about that, and it's so refreshing to watch doctors in a situation like that. The performances are absolutely fucking grueling. A lot like Deliverance, but Hal Holbrook, as he kind of emerges as the lead as it goes, is just like, it's so intense. It's like by the end of the movie, you're like, holy shit. Like, I can't believe everyone doesn't know this movie. And it's obviously, I wonder if it was Canadian, like shot for the exploitation type stuff around the same time as Deliverance, 77. I think Deliverance is 76 maybe. It's really good, and I would highly recommend trying if you can get this through Code Red. This movie is like badass. I have a feeling someone like AJ would love this movie, because the performances are across the board perfect. Like these people feel like these real guys who got lost and were being picked off, and I'm not going to go to why or where or how, because it's nice not knowing. The cool thing about movies like this is, and this is what I was going to say actually about Code Red, this is like my little Code Red thing. For people like me, if you feel like what I was saying about Netflix, that you've come to the end of cinema where you're like, fuck man, I've seen all the stuff I want to see, and I know there's all these criterions, but I look at the covers and I feel like I know what the movie is, so I don't want to watch it. Then I open the Code Red page and I look at, I'd say like 20 out of 25 titles, if I was looking, I haven't even heard of.
Know.
Couldn't tell you what the fuck they're about. And I see like Julie Darling is one I want to see, and it's got Sybil Danning in there somewhere, and it's a girl with a shotgun, holding it at her parents' head. I'm like, I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they've given me this little, anytime I catch one, I'm like, wow, these are great movies.
You got to give it up for them, because again, they just announced a title that's got an awesome cover that I've never heard of.
Which one is it?
God, it's like a girl under a bed and the foot. Yeah, look it up.
I don't know,
but I've never heard of it before. I was like, what is that? But I want to see that.
Yeah, I always want to make recommendations to them, but they're not.
No, I mean, this is the thing.
You don't make recommendations.
I don't understand. Like, I get Scream Factory's model. I get Twilight. I don't know. Is their model a legal model, or are they picking up weird titles that have disappeared?
I have discovered that some of the stuff that they have released, like Messiah of Evil and a couple of the others, they've fallen into public domain. But whereas a lot of companies kind of release public domain movies as shitty copies, they get like really good prints of them.
They do the best they can, because even Rituals looked really great, and we know Butcher Baker.
Oh God, I love that
Nightmare Maker looked great. Like, so I don't know. I have this really high respect for what they do. I don't know anything about them except for stories we hear, but I really do. I find it to be like so refreshing to watch a movie that you know nothing about. I highly recommend people also like Redeemer. I talked about it like last year, but that's one of those ones you're like, I've seen all these shitty slash films, and you put that one and go, what the hell is this movie?
This is it, Bekah. Hide and Go Shriek.
I've heard of the title. Never seen the film.
VHS of that.
Never heard of it, but that's like the cover, like that I would see the video store, like I need to see that.
Yeah.
And
I never heard of it, so I see this. This is the close your eyes, count to 10, and run for your life. It's like, yes, I'm in.
And that's the feeling you want again, right? Like, I feel like this film
Why does this guy have a tattoo on his foot of a snake? I don't know, but I need to watch this movie.
I have owned this one on VHS for probably a decade and never watched it, and now I need to, because if Codes Red picked it up, it must be worth something. And I'm just, now that I'm on their site, Voices from Beyond, it's a Lucio Fulci movie I've never seen.
Wow. No, and that's the thing. Like, I don't really want to watch VHS. Like, I love that VHS had this popularity, like the kind of research, but the quality of them I don't want to watch anymore.
And I hate to be one of those people, but yeah, I mean, there's been a couple times that I've pulled out some of my old VHS tapes and been like, well, I can't watch it any other way. I'll watch it as this. And I get like 10 minutes in and I'm like, this is just painful now.
And because some of them are, so much worse than others, right? Because of just age or whatever.
They get really faded, or some of them get really dark.
I went to The Good, the Bad, the Ugly a couple nights ago, and which was fucking awesome. Tuco is one of the best characters ever. But one of the trailers before was completely pink, and I'm sitting there going, like, if that was a movie, I wouldn't watch it anymore. Mm-mm. Like, why would I watch a pink movie? Like, why would I do that? Like, there's no point. That's not the colors they shot in. Like,
I don't know if you remember, but the first time Elric and I, we had just met, and I coordinated a group screening to go see the 35 millimeter of Possession. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited because up to that point, I had never seen Possession on anything except this crappy ass VHS tape that my parents had since I was a kid. And the monster had always been so dark, I'd never been able to see it. It was just something writhing in the corner, and I was like, I don't know what that is.
And also because you were watching the American version, which was cut by a lot anyway, so it was like, it was featured in a different way.
Yeah, you just see this kind of like humping thing. You can't even tell what it is. And so when we saw it on the screen, I was so astounded. I was like, oh my God, it's like way totally perverse and tentacly. And
it's very Lovecrafty. Yeah, it's interesting. But I don't know. I feel like the thing that Code Red does is it gets that Code Red, and also, to be honest, this sounds weird. We're not being paid to talk about Diabolic DVD today. It'd be nice if we were, but
I still love them.
But I will say, when I scan the films they have, like I hit their like new arrivals, I get a similar feeling. Like, look at all these covers and titles. It feels a little bit more like when I go to a video store.
Here's the thing. It's like, and also, I guess we are giving them a plug essentially.
Yeah,
but,
we are.
No, because
we're going to backcharge.
We're going to backcharge. No, it's because at this rate, like, we're on top of the Scream Factory stuff, but it's like there's companies like Code Red, there's companies like Olive that are just putting titles out.
Vinegar Syndrome.
At such an alarming rate that I can't keep up. Yeah. So if I go on like Diabolic's main page and I see I'm like, oh man, I didn't know they put that out.
Again, it's about curating. They curate it so you see what's there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like that feeling and I miss it, and I feel like, so what I'm getting at with like Netflix is like I'm scanning and I recognize all these covers. The ones I don't want to see, I don't really get, I could watch The Guest again or Babadook or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But when I then see all these movies, I don't even know what they are, which is more dangerous. Somebody would have to tell me Rituals is good, but I'd be shocked if anyone didn't watch that and go, whoa, that movie's badass. Like, so anyway, highly recommend that.
Well, I'm just going to fly through a couple quick ones. A lot of them I saw on Netflix as well. I saw Creep, the Blumhouse film, Mark Duplass. It popped up on Netflix, and I'm like, let me watch this tonight. And I had mixed feelings about it. I sort of like it. And again, it's because I don't really like found footage movies. I'm just sick of it. So
I felt like it felt a little different than the others.
No, it did. But the first half of it, and I understand what you mean about the characters and stuff like that. Yeah. So the first half of it, I was just like, same shit. The second half I thought was a lot stronger, and I actually rather liked the ending quite a bit. But I don't think it would have worked as well if I didn't watch the first half. Like that. It all kind of builds up.
My favorite moments in the first half where he rubs his bum on the.
Oh God, there's lots of little things. But no,
Duplass is funny in it.
My roommate Dave Foy walked in midway through and watched it from the middle of the end. He's like, I'm glad I didn't miss anything. I'm like, you're right. You didn't really.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's interesting if you want to see something kind of unique in terms of the found footage stuff, or just unsettling. And here's the thing: I actually have a point to make about this because. There's certain character choices. There's only two characters.
Yeah.
There's certain character choices that I know as an audience you'd be sitting there like, oh, come on, dude, don't do that, or why would you do that? That sort of thing, which is very common. And here's the thing: there's a series that I've been watching. I mentioned it on the show before. It's called The Killer Speaks. It's on Netflix. They just added season 2. And there are real cases of things that have happened, and they do a little bit of dramatization, but then they interview the actual killer that's involved in the story.
Oh, see, that would mess me up. I can't watch that.
I can't marathon them. I can only watch one at a time because they're staring straight at you when you're hearing the story.
Right.
But the thing that they have in common, the entire first and second season of The Killer Speaks, these are things that have actually happened in life. Some really crazy, fucked up cases. And most of the time, it happens and unfolds in like almost the silliest and stupidest of ways, with people making the stupidest decisions. Right. You know what I mean? Like the way that murder.
Ted Bundy, used to walk up to people and say his name, and then the girls go, "Oh, I'll help you take your groceries to your car," and then they're dead.
The way that people can easily murder other people, and not only that, but like how they get away with it for long periods of time. You watch a series like The Killer Speaks and you get it. You're like, oh, I can't believe it's that easy. You know, because in movies we always have to make drama and figure out a way, audiences are savvy, they'd figure it out. But in real life, they don't wrap shit up like a CSI episode.
But I would say that's about murder in general. In my opinion. If you want to kill someone randomly, murder is the easiest thing in the world to get away with. Yeah. Because it's when you want to, if you have any connection that you want to kill your spouse, you want to kill somebody for a reason, you're always 90% fucked. You know? But I do think people who are willing to kill a random stranger or a serial killer, they have a great chance of getting away with it because there's nothing for people to go on.
My point is that I enjoyed Creep a lot more because I just watched a bunch of episodes of The Killer Speaks, thinking like, well, all right, because we are that type of audience now where we go and we're like, you kind of have our arms folded and you're just like, all right, impress me, exactly. So you're always looking for those things that you could tear down and be like, well, that wouldn't happen in real life. And it's like, you watch some true crime shit, that shit happens in real life all the time, and usually in a much stupider way than you would imagine. So
I will say this about Creep, I feel weirdly enough, if that was the final found footage film ever made, I'd be like, oh, that makes sense somehow.
Oh yeah,
I feel like it's at the end. I felt like that one was like self-aware in a good way, like it knew it wasn't trying to be like the Gallows or one of those kind of running around found. I feel like the running around found footage film may be done. I mean, and it'll be up to the people, the big production companies, to really kill it,
Right. My friend Suzanne gifted me with Wolfen on Blu-ray, which I hadn't seen in years. I would love to see that again. I've only seen it on VHS.
I remember it being a little dry.
I mean, it is. I appreciate it more now. I didn't initially like it when it came out or when I rented it because, I was on my werewolf kick. And it was not like a werewolf movie.
Doesn't have very unique POV shots throughout.
It's got a lot of unique, weird POV shots. And I mean, you're not really dealing with werewolves at all. Right. It's wolves. And, but I did find it a lot more fascinating now. It does have a dry thing about it. And I just find Albert Finney's a great actor. I love him. Yeah. He just feels a little off or miscast for me in this movie. I mean, he's great and all, but it's like he's the one cop in New York that's got this accent, and you're just like, really? But Tom Noonan's in it, and he steals the show because he's just being a creep, which he's great at. So there were things about it that I really liked and appreciated, and this new Blu-ray is fantastic. So that was the way to watch it.
Greatest dancer actor to ever live, Gregory Hines.
That's right. Gregory Hines is in it. He's really good. There is one shot that takes place up on, I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge or it's some bridge that I was very impressed with because you see Albert Finney and the other guy up there, and you're like, how did they shoot that without? And like, where'd the cameras go? Like, without them endangering themselves.
Is this Whitley Strieber?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I just remember from our Philip Morris, I think.
Whitley Strieber. That's right.
I'd like to see that again. I'd like to borrow that.
Yeah, I'll lend it to you. And really quickly, What We Do in the Shadows. I got the Blu-ray. That came out on Blu-ray finally.
Yes.
That's not a very funny movie.
Hilarious. Get out of here.
That was amazing.
Just as good as the first time we saw it.
Yeah.
And
their comic timing's incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, I loved it more. We talked about it earlier in the year because we had a screening of it. But watching it the second time, I loved it even more. Yeah. And not only
I
that,
actually did too. I laughed more.
Louder.
The group screening was my second one, and I laughed more then than the first time I watched it.
It's just so much better. It gets better and better. And the incentive to the Blu-ray is there's so many deleted scenes and stuff.
Oh my gosh, they were wonderful.
And I mean, I know why they're deleted, but if you're a super fan, it's fun. Like there's a character in the movie named Stu that everybody falls in love with, and you will too. Yeah. But there's a deleted scene of the first time that the guy brings Stu over. So of course their inclination is to eat him right away. Right. So there's actually a scene of him pulling him aside, explaining why you can't eat Stu. Stu's my mate. Yeah. And they're like, but his cheeks are so red and rosy, they're full of blood.
That's not in the movie. I thought it was.
No. Yeah, the whole thing's like, but we don't understand. We want to eat him. Well, you brought him here for that. He's like, no, but he's my mate. He's all right. He's Stu. You just can't. And it's like, so there's tons of deleted scenes like that. I understand why they're not in the movie, and I'm glad they're not. But they're fun to watch out of context because you're like, oh, that's
and the short,
cute.
right? I'm sure the short film.
I don't know about that. No,
the short film. The reason I knew about this, it was in a film festival that I was in like a long time ago, maybe like 7 or 8 years ago in New Zealand, and it was like a 20-minute, I think it was completely improvised, like on the script level, most of the same characters, if not all of them, but it's shot like a documentary, but it's like more like the first person right to camera kind of documentary. And they made this 20-minute film, and it's funny, it feels longer than the whole feature. Like it doesn't quite work, but the characters are there. But the main character is different. He's slightly a different kind of vampire.
Right.
But it's fun, and
I think they nailed it.
I think it took them a long time to go back to it, like to go, hey, maybe that was a feature, and they really did nail it, because it's worth watching the short. To me, the short was nowhere near as strong, but that's the origin.
I mean, the movie flies by.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's so good.
It's like you blink and it's done. It's just so wonderful.
That's my favorite of the year by far.
The Beast.
The Beast.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Have either of you seen Night of the Demon, aka Curse of the Demon from 1957?
Yes, it's one of my favorite films of all time.
Not for a long time.
You mean the Jacques Tourneur?
Yeah.
One of the best reveals ever at the end of the movie.
I'd never seen it before, and
The Magician.
One of our previous guests, William Malone, was gracious enough to have a little movie night, and I got invited, and he showed me.
If I'd known that, I would have come.
What?
And it was great. And, I really love this film, and it's funny.
Really underrated.
Robert Parigi showed up, who's going to be a guest on our show in a few weeks, and when you hear him talk, you'll understand how the passion and intelligence that he puts behind it.
He's one of the best.
But he's saying, he's like, you know what? Because we were like, wow, what a great, simple, amazingly told story. Essentially it's somebody's supposedly conjuring a demon, and there's a doctor in town that is there to discredit it. Is that if I'm not
I haven't
mistaken?
seen it in a long time. It's film noir, though. It's rooted in film noir, not horror, but then it kind of...
It definitely has its little horror elements, because you definitely see some creepy shit. But it's, of course, we're speculating like, that. What a great story! Like, wow, would a remake work? Yeah, you could remake that. And Parigi's like, screw that. You don't need to remake it. You just need to redo the scenes where they reveal the demon, because that's the only thing that's aged. It's like the characters, the performance. It's all great. Yeah. It's just those moments that are meant to be scares, and they are kind of scary in that classic way or whatever. He's like, oh man, some whiz kid on a computer could probably do a really great effect and just edit it in there, and you don't need to remake it.
You just reduct.
Do the special edition version.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, people who don't know Tourneur's work, he's like in terms of poetic horror, like he did I Walked with a Zombie.
Well, he directed Cat People, the original. Yeah.
And my favorite Mitchum noir, the Out of the Past, which is like really one of the best noirs.
Yeah.
So he's a really strong director.
Yeah.
But I often say I think Curse of the Demon is my favorite of all of them, because I've only seen it the one time, but it took me so by surprise.
Great. Yeah, I was very.
Is that on Blu-ray?
No, it's a DVD of it.
Okay,
I remember watching it. I haven't seen it since then, but I had a professor show it to me in film school, which I mean is like 20 years ago. I shouldn't admit that now, but I mean it was almost okay. Yeah, but I mean it was good enough for them. 54, 54,
that makes sense.
Give or take a couple decades. But yeah, I mean it was good enough for them to show us in film school, and I remember it being one that was like, oh my god, this is horror and it's amazing.
Yeah, really impressive piece of filmmaking. I thought it was really good. And very last but not least, sort of animation, sort of fringy, I guess, but our friend of the show, Dave Parker, is probably the biggest Kiss fan in the world.
Oh my God, I got it too. It's amazing. It's on my list.
Scooby-Doo and Kiss. Rock and Roll Mystery. This is a brand new animated Scooby-Doo movie.
It's wonderful. I own it. You may borrow it.
And it's really great. I loved it.
Interesting. Is it out yet or not?
Yeah, it came out on Blu-ray.
Yeah. I bought it at Walmart in Winchester, Virginia while I was home.
Yeah, my mind couldn't come. I was like, wait, this is brand new? And he's like, yeah, Kiss is in it. And, it's a Scooby-Doo mystery where it's definitely horror-ish, because there's what's the name of the place? Kiss Land or Kiss World? Yeah. There's an amusement park
for Kiss.
Wow. So it's all like amusing, Kiss.
You're reminding me of those new drawings where they're putting in Kiss or putting in,
it looks like that, because they're really badass in it. I mean, don't think like Kiss now. I mean, no, it's like Kiss superheroes.
Yeah. They're Kiss the band, but they're also aliens that have superpowers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they have superheroes.
That's the deal. Like they don't actually, they refer to them as the Demon and Star Child. They don't actually call them by their names, because that's what they're like. But yeah, so they have an amusement park, and there's this red demon that's haunting the amusement park, and she's scary and freaky, and they have a concert there, so they call the best detectives they can, which is actually Kiss. The Scooby Gang just shows up because they're Kiss fans. and they solved this mystery. But it was very fun and funny, and like again, I'm not a huge fan of the band, so I don't know much, but I could. I mean, they, like everyone knows that they just like make merchandise out of everything. So they're like almost every 10 minutes, something they mention, like it pops up on the screen with like a $49.99 tag.
They make jokes about it.
They make jokes at their own expense, and I thought it was just so much fun.
Is it a feature or one?
It's a feature, and it's in the same vein of Mystery Inc. Where it's very self-aware of the Scooby kind of mythos that's been created around it, and the whole kind of characterization of Fred and Daphne. Are they together? Aren't they together? Type stuff, and
because Daphne's like all with she's all over Paul Stanley. It's really funny. I thought it was charming. Daphne. And then what's cool is I didn't realize because of course you see the name credits at the end of who did the voices, and Matthew Lillard is, I guess, doing Shaggy.
He's been doing Shaggy. He did Shaggy on the Mystery Inc. show as well.
Okay, I didn't realize that. But also Jennifer Carpenter from Dexter is one of the voices in it. Kevin Smith and Jay Mewes. I wouldn't have recognized them at all if I didn't see them in the credits. So I thought it was really fun. I had a blast with it.
It was great. Chris wrote a really good article on Fangoria about it, too, because Chris is such a diehard Kiss fan. But I ended up getting it just because Marnie, my daughter, is like diehard Scooby,
and that's
too.
The thing.
And she
I can imagine kids will love it.
Yeah, she loved it.
It's one of those rare things that kids will love it, but you'll love it, too, as an adult. It's just, I loved it. I really did.
It was kind of cool because back when we did the Kiss issue for Fangoria, I got to go to Gene Simmons' house and like interview him and stuff, which was just like the most surreal day of my life.
Sure, he was nice to you.
He was very nice to me. But it was definitely a surreal day hanging out there. And at the end of it, I was pregnant at the time. And so at the end of it, he was like, you need something. And so he gave me like this 2-year-old size Kiss T-shirt, and Marnie wears it all the time, but she has no idea who Kiss is. And so finally, like when she saw this, she was like, "Oh, my T-shirt!" I was like, "Yes, your T-shirt."
Good, yeah.
So,
and you could tell her in a few years that she got her shirt from Gene Simmons.
The demon himself gave it to you. So
that's pretty cool.
So.
All right, I got to look out for that. Well, we also did a 2-week workshop at Jumpcut. With Larry Cohen. And the first one was more like kind of like Larry Cohen coming to do stand up for an hour, telling you kind of his life story. The second one last night was nothing like that. He stayed for it felt like 4 hours.
How did this all come together? Just tell us that first, because it's an amazing event.
Yeah, there's a documentary being made on Larry. So I thought that they were just gunning for B-roll because we had done a live read at our cafe with him doing one of his scripts, and that was definitely them putting it on, so they can get some B-roll of him doing this thing and put it in the documentary. But it turns out he had such a good time doing that he asked them to get in touch because he wanted to do something and loved the time he spent there. The first one, it was good, but it was more like him just kind of telling you a story, kind of whizzed through it, and then he left. But he gave us a scene prompt to write a few pages on, and some people couldn't come. I mean, it still felt full, even though I thought it was going to be like nowhere near. He comes back the second time. First time he's dressed in a suit, with a shirt. Shows up last night wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and suddenly, without handlers or anyone around him, and suddenly he felt way more relaxed there, and I could tell he was like totally at ease. And he just stayed. I thought he was going to stay for an hour. He started by answering screenwriting questions that we had sent him, like 10 key questions that he didn't really get to the first class, and then he just basically people got up. We had some actors like Sean Keller, people have been on the show, Lindsey Hahn, people like that were the actors on stage, but they also wrote things, and people just started putting up their pages. I wrote like a 3.5 page one, but I didn't want to push mine because I was running the place, but some people were doing like 12 pages, which kind of killed it a bit at the start, but as it went, there was really unique work, and he would kind of just sit there and you'd watch him just watching these scenes and go, so that was a good twist, could have done without the violence there, maybe we'll make that off screen. And then Robert Parigi comes up to me afterwards, he's like, it's funny that it's really interesting that Larry kept wanting the violence off screen, because in Cue the Winged Serpent there's this the beheading. It's strange that, and I said, well, but that could have been Arkoff. It could have been Arkoff saying make it more violent. It could have been so you never know, but you could tell his preference was always, let's tell a clever story, but we don't need to show it. That's not cinema, But he, the thing I love about Larry, and you can attest because you're at the first one, is you could ask him any screenwriting question, like, how do you do this? And what do you do in the second act? And what do you do? And his answer,
I just write it.
Yeah.
I'm a writer, and when I have a problem, I write.
Yeah.
And when I want to have fun, I write. And when I want to work something out, I write. So I found that more than anything, you use it for inspiration, not for answers. And I don't think anyone can give you answers about writing. That's kind of the point. It's you versus the page. And I feel like his answers are great. Though I will say this was one little nugget for people. He said, I asked him, let's say you're in the second act of something, which is usually where people hit a wall. If you hit a wall on a project, what do you do, to get through it? And he said, I very rarely just write one screenplay. And if I cut to that situation, I go to a different one. And I and that way it's playing in a different world for a while until I'm bored. And then I come back to it. And it's a way to keep interested in the subject. Yeah. So I found that interesting. And then his other answer being the whole, when I sit down to write, I don't want to know where it's going. Yeah. I have no destination in mind. I sit there and I want to figure it out. And that's different from most people.
He was saying that because, he's just as excited as an audience to know what happens next, the next day when he goes back to the material. The thing I took away from it, because I didn't make it to last night's, but I went to the previous week where he talked about it.
One, yeah.
And, it's not necessarily advice, but it's just, sometimes it's good to know, because there's no wrong or right way to do this thing. If you're a writer and you want to tell stories, but it's always interesting to know how other people do it, because then you find your own path. And I thought it was fascinating that Larry was the type that said, he didn't want to be one of those negligent fathers.
Yeah,
he's like, look, I had a wife, I have kids. I didn't want to be the type where they got home from school and I was like, oh, don't bother me, I'm writing. So he never did that. He waited till they went to sleep and would go and write at like midnight. He said
he started at midnight most
He would start at midnight and just keep writing until he was delirious and passed out, wouldn't read any of it. He would just let it sit.
He doesn't read it
until the next night. And then he'd go back and look at what happened and kind of like a stream of conscious thing.
He's big on the subconscious.
Yeah, and that's what worked. That's what works for him. That's his method. However, he told a great story. He was good friends with Mario Puzo, who wrote The Godfather. Yeah. And he's like, look, that's what I do. He's like, Mario Puzo, however, he's writing The Godfather, the novel. And, he's writing it from home. And it's like his wife comes in while he's in the middle of writing this thing saying, you got to go pick up the kids. And he's like, all right, fine. He goes, picks up the kids.
I think he's writing it at the kitchen table.
Yeah, he's writing at the kitchen. You got to come to dinner. And he's like, fine, that's fine. Like nonstop interruptions while he's trying to write the fucking Godfather.
Yeah.
And then, Godfather comes out, becomes a huge hit. They make the movie, etc.
He has a $1 million anything he writes.
Yeah,
deal.
and then from that point on, it's $1 million a script no matter what. So he's got a giant office. Secretaries, everything. And he says to Larry, he's like, I got an office, I got secretaries, I can't fucking write.
Can't write a word.
Wow.
I can't
write a single word. Had nothing to say anymore.
I had nothing to say.
Because he took him out of his element.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I tend to be that way too. I thrive on deadlines. Mm-hmm. If you tell me, hey, you only got X amount of time or you have to be at this place, it's like, oh shit, well then I got to get shit done.
Yeah.
And
I think
so
a lot
again,
of us do, yeah.
It's just nice to hear everybody's method and know that, there is no wrong way. Whatever gets the job done.
He also quoted my all-time favorite, E.L. Doctorow is a famous novelist who died, I think 2 days, maybe it was a week ago now. And he had a quote that Larry then also interpreted, which I quote I'd always loved, which is, it's just like driving a car at night. I can't see past the headlights, but I know I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
If I keep going just as far as I can see, I will eventually get there.
Yeah.
And you don't have the destination, So I think there's, something inspired. But I think in general, the only other thing that's interesting about his films, if you watch them, the thing that makes him unique as a writer is they go off the fucking rails. Structurally, they always go somewhere you could never imagine, ever. Except his Hollywood, studio films that he doesn't direct, tend to be a lot tighter, whether it's phone booth or that. And so we said, do you adhere to a different structure? And he said, yeah, I don't look at 3x structure for my own work. I just see where the story goes. And for the other thing, I'm very, very aware of structure, so because I'm writing it for someone else, I'm writing it to sell. And the other big thing he said last night, and it's so inspiring when a guy like this does it. He said, look, every time I go into studios, all they talk about is remaking things, sequelizing things. And he's like, you know what? I've done it. I never want to make a film that I already know what it is. All I want to do is make original work. Otherwise, I'm just like one of these suits who they have those executive jobs because they can't do what I can do, which is right. And he really is like oppositional. He's actually kind of feels almost like politically artistic to me, which I kind of love because you wouldn't think that when you look at him. He looks like because he's very well off. He lives in Sam Fuller's house.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, he lives in Sam Fuller's house.
That's amazing.
Yeah, in Hollywood. And so but he's carved out his voice, and I really have a lot of respect for him, and I hope more than anything. Of all the people in the world, he's the one I want to get most on our show. And
you got to do with him now.
Yeah.
Do it, man.
I'm going to be doing my work for us.
He likes a cafe now, so
if he comes, it'll be with cameras. I'll tell you that much.
That's fine. We're not camera shy.
Work with that.
But no, it'd be a fun one to discuss, especially with God Told Me To references.
Oh, yeah.
But we have to discuss that movie.
Yeah.
But so that was good. And he did say at the end of it, he said after like 4 hours, he's like, so if we come back for a third one,
oh my God.
So I got the feeling he kind of wants
He likes it. He likes the attention. That's great.
He does. I think he and the work. He likes just watching people's scenes. He definitely liked all the actors. He kept saying, these are great actors.
Yeah.
So good stuff, Keller.
That's great.
And if you could have seen his face during Keller's scene, which was a guy on guy, like hot love scene in a hotel, I wanted a slow dolly push into Larry's face because it was priceless.
Wow. So he's old school, you're saying. He's an old school guy.
I mean, hey, he didn't say anything bad, but it's just as I think there was a lot of surprise where the scene was going.
Good. Well, that's what he likes.
Go Keller.
Keller pushed the envelope. Good stuff.
Nice.
But anyway, so that's a summary of everything I've done in the last
same
I've been
here.
chomping for an episode as
I know, but I insisted we wait for Bekah.
Thank you guys so much.
Bekah, tell us about your vacation if there's anything fun. You went to a convention or what?
No, I ended up not being able to do the convention. My mom ended up having some minor surgery on the day I was supposed to leave for it. So I was like, okay, you know what?
Way to take this dark, Bekah.
I'm sorry. No, she's fine. It was
okay, all right, good.
But I was still like, I don't want to hi, I'm here. I'm sorry, you might need help for a day. I'm going to bail. So I decided to stay home with her, which I still feel was the best decision. But she's totally fine. So no biggie. But so I discovered that it reminded me of being in high school because my parents' house, like the walls are like paper thin. And I remembered being in high school sitting on the edge of my bed straining to hear my television because I had to turn it down so low in my bedroom. And my parents, I mean, they're in their late 60s, early 70s. And my dad's hearing is just gone. And it's weird because I have to repeat everything I say numerous times, increasing volume. But if I have the TV on very slightly after he goes to bed, he can hear it. It's like a pin drop for him. And he'll come down and be like, that TV is too damn loud. So it was fun. So I watched.
So you didn't move home, is what you're saying.
So I'm not moving home again.
LA gets to keep you.
So I ended up watching movies on my phone and my laptop, which I never do because.
Wait, what does David Lynch say about watching movies on your phone? Never watch a fucking phone on.
I know, right? But
tell him to can it.
If you
watch Creep on a phone.
Maybe.
If you can't watch them any other way, then I'm going to concede and be like, okay, you know what? Everyone in the house went to bed.
I'm not conceding the phone ever. I will never concede.
Everyone in the house went to bed at 9:00. I can't make any noise. I can't go anywhere. I'm sitting in my room and I'm like, okay, I'll watch something on my phone. And I had my tablet too, so I watched a lot on my tablet.
Tablet's passable.
Thank you. So let's see here. This one's playing this week on VOD, White God, which I highly recommend if you guys haven't seen.
The dog film?
The dog film. It's really good. I mean, I'll call it horror. It is horror. But yeah, it doesn't have like an intriguing premise. It's about a girl who's forced to get rid of her dog. She's moving and they force her to leave her dog behind. And it kind of launches this dog revolution. And I know that sounds like a weird, like Disney
Milo
premise.
And Otis or not?
Yeah, no, it's a horror film. But that one, it's now on VOD. So I recommend that one. I watched People Under the Stairs. Which is the new Scream Factory edition.
Did you watch any of the special features yet?
I didn't, actually, and I know you did those, so I need to. People Under the Stairs is still such a mixed bag for me because it's like a cool...
Wait, no, not for you. People Under the Stairs is a mixed bag, ...
I
don't even need to justify that sentence.
I know people who love it.
You know what? I found a newfound... I didn't like it when it came out, but I actually really dug it when I was working on those special features. Yeah. Like, I rewatched it, I was like, yeah, this is pretty funny and wild and weird.
See, that's what I was kind of... Because I have not seen People Under the Stairs since it came out. And, like, I didn't need to. I remembered it. You don't forget that fucking movie.
Well, also, it's weird because it's the inner city... That's the weird thing about it. It's the inner city guys going into the kind of suburban house. Yeah. And so it's just a really different kind of setup.
And there's a Twin Peaks connection because Everett McGill...
And it's got these weird, like, incestual overtones, but then the babies, and it's just bizarre.
Weirdly enough, of all his stuff, that one I would be the most interested in someone remaking because doing it just differently. Like the concept of people living on the stairs in a house and somebody, you know, kind of almost like The Collector in a weird way, like somebody's breaking in and see. There's something about it that is really compelling.
And I did like the See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil, how they each have like an item removed, whatever they used to sing. And it's just, it's bizarre, and I can't say that it's great, but I really enjoyed watching it again. And I felt the same way the first time, even when I saw it when I was younger. You know, I can't say it's great, but it's a fun film.
It was always fun. It was just like there were so many weird tonal shifts. I mean, I think that's where Wes is like interesting, because I mean, it's like always hard to know, is he like a great technical director, or is he just like a really interesting? I think of all the imaginations, he's the best. Of the hard directors, but like he's not Carpenter in terms of formal skill.
I agree with that.
And I think so his films often take these weird tonal shifts outside of Nightmare. Like they're sometimes a little all over the place, but they always like worked for the most part.
There's a lot of ideas going on.
He's so interesting. His mind is interesting.
It felt like numerous films. The whole kind of socioeconomic thing, and then the people stealing babies to kind of create the perfect child, and then the people under the stairs.
Maybe too many ideas.
It felt like several different movies.
Yeah, I don't know if that was... Is there any talk? I know there's a lot of talk of remakes and like TV series spun from his stuff.
No, but that's always been one up in the air in terms of the remake.
I feel like if somebody had a really cool idea. But
inevitably, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happening. So I ended up watching Wild Zero, which I love that movie. Freaking love.
Never even heard of Wild Zero.
Are you kidding? It's Japanese.
No,
and it's just this batshit crazy zombie film, and it's about like they're
like the Ramones. It's like the Japanese Ramones fight zombies.
Yeah, that's it exactly. It's like this garage band, but the lead singer is well known in it. Guitar Wolf, I think he's called, or Wolf Guitar or something like that. But they end up like there's an evil wizard involved, or a sorcerer who kind
live
of
action movie.
Yeah, it's totally batshit crazy and wild, but I love it.
Hilarious. You got to see it. You will love it. So I ended up watching that. I can't recommend it enough. It's just crazy.
1999. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't even look familiar to me.
Really?
And it's great music. I mean, they're apparently in a real band that I was not aware of called Guitar Wolf. And
what was the Romero movie he tried to make a long time ago with like a band?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
They had to kill like 100 people to get through, or something like that. It's like a band that have to survive all the zombies and.
I don't remember, but I know what you're talking about, because he wanted Ozzy to be in it.
Yeah, it sounded really cool.
Which is why she ended up in Land of the Dead, because this is going back before that.
Yeah, I remember that being a rumor for a long time. Sounded cool.
But yeah.
So the other one, I do have to mention, I went to the greatest roadside attraction ever. And I'd been there before when I was a kid, but Dinosaur Land in Virginia, I can't recommend enough. I brought back T-shirts for Elric's kids.
Yes. Whoa, look at that.
Dinosaur Land, hear me roar.
When you talk about roadside attractions, it is a giant collection of giant fiberglass dinosaurs. And at the end, there's a giant King Kong. And the whole thing is just so homespun. And, you know, people walking through with bags of generic Cheetos while gawking at dinosaurs. And some of them are painted like neon colors. And it's just hilarious.
Was Sid Haig there with the alligator guy from Creature?
It's pretty much that.
Worst roadside ever. Wow. No, that's the thing about America, that if you ever, like, anyway, I don't know if you're born and raised here, but anyone not from America, that's the thing you think America's going to be like. You want so bad everything to be small towns, and so much of it's just been like bulldozed, and it all looks the same when you try to, you know.
It's exactly the same as I remember it when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I thought it was awesome. Like, I thought it was the coolest thing we had in our town. And now that I'm going through, like, you see, like, these fiberglass things are like neon pink, and I'm pretty sure a plesiosaur wasn't neon pink, but that's okay, because it still has this great charm. I am speculating. It still has this absolutely wonderful charm to it. And it is very kind of homespun roadside, where there's like a truck stop next door. But my favorite thing, the Dinosaur Land font, you can hold up the shirt. I don't know. Wait, maybe they didn't put it on the same font. No, they didn't. Okay. It's the same font as Disneyland. So when you're driving past, it looks like Disneyland, and then you look close and it says Dinosaur Land.
That's
it's a
smart.
trip.
Pretty good.
I feel like the popularity of those kind of things are like big things is very similar to our attraction to men in suits in movies. Like that we're so much forgiving of something that was handmade, and we somehow like buy into it. Then whereas if it was like all computered, or just like Disneyland, something, you know, too many screens and too much, you just like, I don't care. You know, I don't know. There's something about people making shit that is endearing.
And that's what this is. It's a family that owns it. And it was like a guy like 30 years ago just started making fiberglass dinosaurs. And they still have the original ones he made. And now he has like ginormous ones like life-size Tyrannosaurus Rexes and things like that.
I hope at the success of Jurassic World that they're doing okay.
I
hope people go to Dinosaur Land.
There were at least 5 other people when I walked through.
Oh, great.
So it was fun.
Yeah, it's going to help.
But the big thing, and this one shocked me like crazy, that I really enjoyed this week, Unfriended.
I
know.
How did you see it? Is it out on?
I got sent a press copy because they sent out the press Blu-rays, but I think it's on VOD now.
No, I looked yesterday when you wrote that, and I wanted to see it so we could talk. But I'm
pretty sure it is because I just looked right before the show and I saw it pop up on Amazon. Maybe it's like a soon to be
Amazon.
released.
I don't do Amazon. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is VOD streaming on Amazon now. But yeah, so that one I had been
it's like your age group, right? Like it's your.
You know me. I'm like
academic
totally into like my 16-year-old. So, and I do have to say there was like some technology they were using in it that I was like, I don't even know what that is. I am so dense.
I just found out that young people don't like use Facebook and they use Instagram as like what they use as Facebook. And I'm like, really? I always thought Instagram is just photos, but everyone's like communicating through Instagram. I always hear
Snapchat is like where the
how do you
teens
communicate
are.
through Instagram?
Yeah, kids don't care about
This is get
Facebook.
off my lawn discussion.
Maybe
boys.
we need a killer POV Instagram. I'm starting to wonder now.
Hey,
that's
there we
not
go.
a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
It's just going to be pictures of us.
Of old guys.
Old guys watching movies.
That's it. Here's me watching Wild Zero. It's slightly less interesting than hearing me describe Wild Zero. So, but anyway, so Unfriended.
No spoilers.
I'm not giving any spoilers. I'm only going to give the premise and say it was good. And I was really nervous about this one. And honestly, I probably would not have seen it had Morgan Peter Brown not been like, seriously, Bekah, you'll like it. And so I was like, okay, you know what? They sent me a press copy. I'll watch it. The setup is that there's 5 friends. They're in like their senior year of high school. I assume they never say that, but they're talking about prom and stuff. So you can assume it's their senior year. One of their friends had a video of her doing something horrible posted online the prior year. And then she killed herself on video, which also got posted. The death got posted.
Which is also the setup of Summer of Paul Sillet's film.
What? Oh, Dark Summer. Yeah.
Dark Summer had a similar
Very similar.
And you don't find out what the actual video, what she was doing in the video that got posted until close to the end. So they tease that. But it's now a year anniversary of her death, and 5 friends who used to be really good friends with her when she was alive are on Skype, all chatting about what they're going to do that weekend and everything. It's really mundane. And then this kind of character pops into their Skype and they can't figure out how it got there. And then after a while, it starts talking to them. Like they think it's just a glitch. And then after a while, it starts talking to them. And then they realize it's her old account.
Okay.
And then I won't go any further. But I will just say it gets really kind of smart.
So is it all in real time? Is it all set within their conversation?
The whole thing is in real time. And I will say it never leaves a screen. Okay. And there are moments that you're like, I don't even know what's going on, because you're just like, you're watching them research stuff or type things to their friends. But everything that happens in there is a clue. And it's very smartly woven.
See, I'd watch that on an
iPad. But it's all filmed in like Skype conversations, right? Like the whole thing?
The majority of it. A lot of times you're watching her like research stuff, or she's getting messages on Facebook, or she's like instant talking, or what do you call it, on Facebook, where you like privately talk message from her boyfriend. I am a bit old. PMing. Thank you. She's PMing her boyfriend. There's a point where it switches over to chat roulette for a second. And and it's using all of these different, and she's on YouTube watching all these different videos. And then after you kind of figure out what's going on, she starts researching it on Google, and they're emailing each other stuff. And so you're watching probably, I'd say, 10 different computer programs going on. And it's all through one girl's computer screen, but you're seeing all these other people doing stuff too. And it's surprisingly smart, I have to say.
Wow.
So, I will watch it by next week if it comes out.
You're welcome to my Blu-ray now. But I have to say, the other thing that I have to say was smart about this movie is that the advertising is so cleverly woven in, you barely even notice it, because there's product placement, but it's ads that you usually see. So you don't even notice it.
Who put this movie out?
I think it was Blum.
Okay. So, okay. Well, that's a great company. I'm a big fan of that. And they did Creep too, which was a great film.
Yeah.
No, but when I say the advertising was kind of smart, it's things like when you're staring at your computer screen, you know how your bookmarks go across the top of Google Chrome? Well, it'll say things like Forever 21, Free People, Domino's Pizza, and you're not even paying attention, but after you've been staring at her Facebook page for a while, you're like, she bookmarked Domino's Pizza. Hey, wait, that can't be a fucking coincidence. Yeah. So, Forever 21's the one I definitely remember being there. So, yeah, it was...
All right.
Plot, I will say some of the kills are kind of
Wait, there's kills?
There's kills on Skype?
There's kills, and they get reposted and everything. It's very much like a cyber community. So there's multiple kills. And some of the kills are kind of like, not my favorite, but just the unweaving of the plot is good.
It is hard to make something where you're looking at a screen. A lot of those films lately haven't worked. I thought Swanberg's on VHS 1 was okay. Like, had a couple of moments where they used the frame pretty well. Yeah. But there's some that's just like...
I forgot I was looking at a screen within a half an hour.
All right. That's good. That's a good endorsement.
And you hear her typing, which is the other thing that, like, the first 20 minutes, I was like, well, that's going to get annoying. You completely forget about it.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like, isn't there that other one, the Elijah Wood one with Sasha Grey?
Open windows. I heard that was dull to watch the screen on that one.
It is kind of cool the way that they play it, because you see what she starts to type, and then you see hesitation, and then she'll go back and erase it, and then she'll type something else. And it's like everything means
so it's more
something.
Voyeuristic because you're not usually seeing that.
Well, I'm curious.
We'll watch it.
Okay,
for sure.
Definitely check it out.
We know what we're doing next week.
Yes, Sinister 2.
Sinister 2. The director we are big fans of.
Yes.
I can honestly say that if I was like the head of that studio who did Sinister 2, I would have picked Kieran for that film.
Kieran, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? After watching his movie, I'd be like the little creepy kids, even though they're not kids in his movie, but they look like kids in Citadel.
Is that still on Netflix, by the way? Let me check really quick, because...
I would highly recommend seeing that.
Yeah, watch it before Sinister 2, and watch it before next week, because we've been wanting to have... how do you say his name's Kieran or Kieran?
I mean, I just said it was Kieran when I... Were you on that show when we did?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, well,
because I kept saying Kieran.
Yeah, he was on and Bruckner on the same episode. Mm-hmm. We did one where it was more like two smaller interviews with half. But yeah, now Kieran, a really just talented
Syrian,
filmmaker, and I also think we'll be tackling some creepy kid movies.
Yeah,
because it's perfect time.
Yeah,
and again, Citadel was a very impressive film, and he's just a really nice guy, and I really love that he got the opportunity to do a movie with this kind of scale.
And Scott
for sure.
picked him, right?
Scott Derrickson picked him,
which
literally
is great.
through Twitter. We'll get him to tell that story next week.
Yeah, so it'll be fun.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Tune in until next week.
Yeah, and thanks so much, guys. We appreciate all the kind words. I know you were a little upset and angry that we weren't around for a little bit, but
God, imagine if we were gone for a month, how many movies we'd have to talk about. That's like 3 weeks.
That was like a catch-up
an hour and a half of movies.
I didn't even mention Dark Was the Night. I'll do it next week.
Dark Was the Night. Save it.
Intriguing monster film. I'll mention it next week.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.